Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. Today we have Ryan Deasy and Mike Doherty from Skytree Investments. Ryan started his real estate journey in 2012 and now oversees Skytree's marketing and lending departments, specializing in DSCR, hard money, and construction loans. Mike, the other co-founder of Skytree, has sold over $100 million in real estate in the last 3 years and runs the brokerage arm of the firm. Together, they help clients achieve superior returns in multifamily and commercial assets, and they both co-host the real estate podcast, Sky's the Limit. Let's dive into the episode. Welcome back to another episode of Uncontested Investing. I'm your host, Nate Zielinski, and today I got the headphones on because I'm being joined virtually by Mike Doherty and Ryan Deasy of Skytree Investments. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today, for agreeing to be on the podcast. It was a little bit of a last minute, but I really think this is going to be a great interview. I like your guys' story, and I think you have a lot of good insight to share with our audience. So the first question, as we typically ask with all our guests, is going to be the early days of your real estate career, right? Not everybody is always, right after college, they get into this real estate game. They know what they want to do. Everybody has a different route into the real estate business. So if you guys could both take a little bit of time and kind of think about those early days, what was a moment where you're like, let me try this out. Let me see what, investing in real estate or being involved in real estate is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us on here. Definitely want to share our experiences, and hopefully we can help some of your listeners in their investing journeys. I guess I'll start. So 2012 was the first time, was my first purchase. I bought a duplex out in New Britain, Connecticut. Years leading up, I had graduated college. I went to Central Connecticut State University, not as cool as UConn, I know, but it was a good time. And when I graduated in 2009, I moved into a duplex with all my friends. And, we were renting rooms for $475, which even for room rentals, these days, it's super, super cheap. But either way, I realized this landlord is not doing anything proprietary, right? He's collecting $475 times, 6 or 7 of us. I know the mortgage is much less than that. He's not really, spending a ton of time here. I'm like, he's raking this in. So when our lease was up, after, I think we were there for at least 2, maybe 3 years, I was like, man, I can do this. I can do what he was doing. So 2012, I bought a duplex just down the street from there, and I moved in 6 of my friends. And that first month where I had collected their rents for the first time ever in my life, collected their rents, made the mortgage payment that was less than what I had collected, aka I'm living for free, was like a light bulb moment for me. Mm-hmm. Because when you're that age, and even the ages that we are now, like your mortgage payment is usually your largest bill. So for me to have eliminated that was huge. I felt like I was rich, So that was really the light bulb moment. And then from there, in the years to come, I sort of scaled from there. And it took a long time to accumulate more properties, but that's how it all started for me.
Very cool. I like hearing about those light bulb moment stories. You took the words right out of my mouth. The people, they get around their first property, whether it's, themselves or if it's a family business growing up, they really have that moment where they're like, oh man, if I can figure out how to do this and scale it, sky's the limit. No pun intended. We'll get to that in a little bit. That was an accidental pun, I promise. But Mike, go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks again, Nate, for having us on. Really appreciate it. So similar to Ryan, I went to, I guess he went to Central, I went to UConn, but
I went to Huskies. So similar to me. Let's go Huskies.
Oh, very good. Yeah. Awesome. There we go.
Yeah.
Hopefully have a good year this year again in basketball, so We'll see. Graduated UConn in 2015. I got a job right into finance. I was selling mutual funds to financial advisors. I was an internal wholesaler, which is really just like a glorified sales assistant. But I learned a lot. I got my Series 7 and 6. I learned a lot about the finance world, which plays a huge part into real estate. So, really fortunate for that opportunity, but it just wasn't for me. I did that for about 7 years. So 2022, I actually quit my full-time job to pursue real estate investing and being an agent full-time. So I got my agent license while working that W-2 job in 2020. I did both for about 2 years. And then, during COVID, I was able to work from home remotely and really scale my real estate agent business. I'll be honest, I probably wasn't the best W-2 employee at that time. The writing was on the wall, but nonetheless, it really propelled me to quit that W-2 job. I learned a lot about real estate during those 2 years as being an agent. I had found Ryan years before. We'd always been like friends, sharing ideas back and forth. What's working for you in your multis, what's working for me. I think I bought my first multifamily in 2016, right after graduating UConn. Lived in one unit with my now wife, rented out the other unit. Like Ryan said, really lowered my living expenses, which allowed me to save up for the second investment property. And from there, my wife caught the real estate bug. She bought a 3-family. I moved into her apartment, rented mine out, and now I'm really cash flowing well. And then from there, it really just scaled the rental portfolio, linked up with Ryan. We started buying property together, combining incomes and down payments to acquire more rental properties. And from there, to your point, sky's the limit. And we've been investing ever since. So it's been a great journey so far.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm glad you kind of gave a little bit of background, because that's where I want to go next with. You guys really took it to the next level, which I have a lot of respect for, right? Because people that invest in real estate can sometimes do it passively, and there is a lot of merit to that, right? You have your 9-to-5 job, but then you invest on the side. But you guys decided to kind of take that plunge. You both left different jobs to kind of be all in on this, and I think that's where people can really realize their potential and go to the next level when they actually get rid of the distractions, get rid of the other jobs, and go all in with this. So what were some of those conversations like, if you guys can remember back to should we team up? Should we start our own company? How exciting was that? Was there any challenges that went along with that? If you guys can kind of share some insight about, just kind of being passive real estate investors to, starting an LLC with Skytree Investments.
Yeah, absolutely. So, to be honest with you, it's no secret. It's hard to scale. There is no money tree for us. We don't have some money tree outside that's just printing $100 bills. It's tough. It is tough to acquire the capital to invest in deals and grow your portfolio, bottom line. So Mike bought a couple, I bought a couple. Okay, fine. We had a couple properties, which is, nothing to shake a stick at, but at some point it's hey, Mike, do you really want to scale this thing? Yes or no? Answer was yes. So it's we had to join forces and, combine the capital, combine our experience, combine our contacts, combine, investors that we were networking with, everything, combine it into one pot in order to grow. I think it came really what the conversation was hey, we want this next deal. Can you do half, down payment closing costs, and I'll do the other half, and we kind of make this work? It was a combination of that and bringing skill sets together. So to this day, Mike is the more outgoing person. He's got the better contacts. He's got there's no doubt. For me, I enjoy being behind the scenes, and I was more than happy to put the CRM together, right? So we have a pretty robust CRM. We do a lot of off-market lead gen, and we do that via postcards. We do that via text. So I was happy to get on the calls with those vendors to learn how those systems work and to implement them into what we do. So his skills, my skills, our capital came together, and that's kind of was the conversation. That was the catalyst to get us to that next step.
Yeah, just to mirror what Ryan said, it really came down to scalability. I ran out of money. Ryan was probably quickly running out of money buying properties on your own. We identified a 4-unit apartment building in a town that we both lived in, invested in. And we knew it was a great deal. And, people say, does the deal come first? Does the money come first? I still don't know the answer, but ultimately the deal came, and then we found each other. We found the money. We ended up buying that 4-unit together. That was our first property we purchased together. From there, We sold it. We did a 1031 exchange, allowed us to buy a more even better 5-unit commercial property in that same town, seller finance, low down payment, great rate, beautiful property. From there, we bought a 6-unit together and it just kind of blew up. So, a lot of people are of the mindset, I got to go it alone. I'm my own boss. I don't want any partners. And that works for some people. It didn't work for either of us, because if we had never came together and bought that 4-unit and kind of put either personality aside or whatever aside, we would have never probably been to where we are today, which is, a pretty sizable portfolio, at least for us. And like what Ryan said, he's very good at things I don't like doing, and I'm pretty good at things he doesn't like doing. So the partnership works. I trust him, and I think that's probably one of the biggest things, and probably why a lot of partnerships fail is trust, just like any relationship, honestly. So it's worked for us thus far. I mean, we're not perfect. We've missed on deals. We've knock on wood, never lost any money on deals, but we've definitely learned a lot, and continue to grow together.
That's awesome to hear. You guys, I don't have to ask a question. You typically, every episode it comes up, the partnership aspect, the networking aspect of it, but you guys are a testament to it right there, especially with those answers, just how much of a difference that can make. And, Mike, with your answer there too, a lot of people initially can take that lone wolf mentality where, I don't want to share the wealth. I don't want to, share leads. If I'm going to be successful, I have to go at this alone and be very aggressive. But as you guys, again, are a testament to, the opportunity to blossom and be extremely successful in this industry, it opens so many doors when you're open to that partnership and that networking. So, again, something else that you hit on, though, that I do want to talk about is skills that you may have, experiences that you may have, for our listeners to hear, right, that are maybe on the fringe or maybe do something similar to what you did, Mike, right out of college. How much of a leg up do you guys think you have with that prior experience, with those skills that you maybe developed throughout college, through other jobs? Like, you can, I think you're in a unique position where you can speak to a lot of different people's pain points within the industry because you have a lot of experience. How much do you think that's helped you?
A fair amount, I'd say. I mean, we didn't start off as real estate gurus, and I wouldn't even call us real estate gurus now, but we definitely have seen a lot of the real estate industry, and I haven't been doing it probably as long as I know Ryan has. Maybe you have, Nate, and a lot of your listeners as well. But we've purchased a lot of property, whether it's flipping, wholesaling, cash out refinances, commercial, industrial. Never done self-storage, but interested in it. But the 2 families, the 4 families, we've got 40,000 square foot buildings. We've got mixed use, we've got office, we've got Airbnbs. We've dabbled in a lot of different things. So I'd say with that experience, it allows myself and at least Ryan to help consult a lot of our clients, whether they're buyers and sellers for me as an agent or buyers and sellers for Ryan as a lender. So that does give us a leg up. And with Ryan's marketing, like you said, we have a pretty robust CRM system. So our marketing is kind of forefront, direct to seller. So we get access to a lot of deals. And if we pass on them, I'll give them to our clients. But, that kind of insight, that first line of defense directly with the sellers definitely gives us a leg up. So, we can have those conversations with sellers about seller finance, about subject to deals, about anything creative finance. And I think it makes us come across as more trustworthy. It ultimately allows us to close a lot more deals. So I would say it certainly gives you a leg up. But at the same token, I have a client down in Norwalk, closer to you guys in New York City. He's got 150 units. He started 3 years ago. He hasn't seen one of the units. You don't have to be an agent or a lender or some guru or have a podcast or read a course. Like, you can just rely on your resources. He has a good team. He has me as an agent. He uses Ryan as a lender, and he has his property management, team. So it is scalable, and he's got a very high paying W-2 job in New York City, and he doesn't have time to be, knee deep in real estate every day. He relies on a team. So I think it goes both ways. There's not one perfect answer, but I think it definitely helps being in the industry, having a little bit of leg up.
Yeah, I would totally just echo that. I mean, like, Mike as an agent, myself as a lender, like, I I pride myself, and I know Mike agrees, like when we're talking to clients, like not only is Mike offering agent advice, I'm offering lending advice. Like I really, really pride myself on the fact that like I'm like in it. I'm not just like took a test, got my mortgage license, got my agent's license, and like, pick up the phone and started talking to somebody. Like I've been doing this for the last, 13 years. Like Mike said, we have seen, for better or for worse, and I mean better or for worse, like we have seen some stuff, good and bad. So like when I'm talking to someone, I can relay real life experience to what they're going through, to advice that I might give them on what to do, what not to do, and like that has been everything. I just can't say enough about aligning yourself with someone. And I'm not trying to like pat ourselves on the back too much here, but like align yourself with someone in your market, whether it's an agent, whether it's a lender, whether it's a property manager that has the experience. You don't need to. These days there's so much content like this podcast that you do, like ours, like Bigger Pockets and all that kind of stuff. There's so much content out there, you can kind of get lost. So if you're buying properties and you're using an agent, you're using a lender, you're using a property manager, find someone with a good amount of experience that can kind of help you and navigate you through these sometimes rough waters.
I always think of one thing. I always think of the analogy. Would you ever use a financial advisor who doesn't manage his own portfolio? Would you ever use a contractor that can't fix up his own house? It's the same with agent. Would you ever use an agent for investment properties that doesn't own an investment property? I'm sure they bought and sold some, but have they ever really experienced, working with tenants? How can they, be a great fiduciary to someone if they haven't gone through it themselves? And, working with a lender that has never closed a property themselves. They've never gone through the process of it. So that, that testimonial, that real life experience, I think is everything.
Couldn't agree more. And Mike, on your first answer there, you definitely hit a buzzword for me with trustworthiness, right? People know you guys are experienced. They get a good feel for what you do. I'm sure if you're able to sit down with anybody, you guys can come across as very knowledgeable, very helpful people just, through these first couple answers that I've heard here. And that brings me to my next topic, along with the trustworthiness and being able to be an asset for people that are coming to Skytree and looking for your help in this industry. A lot of my guests, when they sit across from me, a conversation that always comes up is navigating tougher times in the industry. In 2008 gets brought up a lot. I think based on some of our ages and graduation years here, we were mostly observers to that as kids growing up in a household where our parents were more stressed about that than we were. But with throughout the course of this last year, there has been some negative press in regards to the economy, the inflation, the interest rates. A lot of people have perceived that as very tough times to be a real estate investor. How have you guys handled that? Not only with your investments, but people that are coming to you for advice are maybe very hesitant to jump on a property, get into the industry. How have those conversations been for you guys? How have you handled that?
That's a really good question. So if you noticed, I said that I started in 2012, which by that time, 2007, 8, 9 had is done, right? And things are starting to sort of pick up. So for better or for worse, I did not start investing in 2008, for example. So I have not been through a real downturn. I think my answer to that question would be to stick to your numbers and always have an exit plan. So, and we're happy to share this. I've certainly shared this spreadsheet with other people, but we have a particular spreadsheet. It's nothing fancy. We plug in all the numbers. At the bottom, we get a return on investment. You get a net figure that we would make if we bought this property and it had these rents, these expenses, et cetera. So if it makes sense on the spreadsheet, we're like, okay, let's take this next step further. Let's investigate. Let's take a look at the property and everything. So really sticking to your numbers and having an exit plan, whether that's flipping, whether that's okay, it's going to be worth X at the end of the day. I know I can probably get 75% on a cash out. Is that going to meet my goals? Does it give me all my money back? Does it give me part of my money back? So I think those two things have really kind of like guided us through this whole journey, because we don't know what things are going to happen. Like everyone in 2020 when COVID hit, it was like, oh my gosh, like, everything's closed, like everything's crazy. And like stuff was like crazy then. Like it nothing really transpired like everyone thought it was going to. And now, just take, for example, just because, we invest in central Connecticut, like, we were buying triplexes. We thought triplexes in, say, New Britain area, they were trading for like 250,000. That was top of the market. Now it's like, if we see 450, it's like, wow, and it's a very short time. So to say that like, oh man, things are going to start to really slow down, prices are going to come down. It's like, it seems like it's time, but at the same time, like everyone's been saying that for the last couple of years and it hasn't happened. So it's kind of tricky to navigate in that regard.
Yeah. I don't know who said it or where I heard it, but it really sticks with me. And it's never a bad time to own good dirt. Right. And the philosophy behind it is, the markets are going to do this. They're going to be volatile. They're going to go up. They're going to go down. There'll be new elections, new presidents, new administration here and there. There's going to be hurricanes. The world goes on. But ultimately, someone always needs, at least for multifamily asset class, which is where our primary investment strategy is, someone will always need a roof over their head, right? And you can very quickly, like Ryan said, analyze a deal, back of the napkin, 1% rule. There's a million different rules out there you can follow, whatever works for you. But there's rental comps, there's sold comps. And as long as you're not crazy overpaying, and if you have an exit plan, it's never a bad time to own good dirt. And there's countless clients that I've consulted with, 4 years ago, and ourselves included. We're like, 250 for a 3-family, way too high. Well, we just lost out $150K of equity, just like that, right? And there's tons of people who just use that as an excuse to stay on the sidelines. And sure enough, 20 years goes by and they don't own any real estate and they have no retirement. And where did the time go? So, there's buying smart and there's buying, foolish, I'd say. I just think real estate is an asset class. It's a great hedge against inflation. There's a lot of tax benefits that come with it. And, if you're buying, you don't have to be, like I said, a guru, but if you're buying somewhat smart, consult whoever you want. I just think it's a great asset class to be in, and don't let the minutia of the market and the news really get you down.
And correct me if I'm wrong, please. I don't want to sound stupid when I say this, but isn't the phrase "marry the property, date the rate"? Isn't that what it is?
Indeed, yep.
That basically, so that basically means like, if the property makes sense, it's a great property, it's what you're looking to buy, it meets all your goals, marry the property. Does the rate not quite align with what you would be hoping to get? Okay, so date the rate, because it's subject to change, right? Yes, you could be stuck with an 8.5% rate for the next 5 years, and nobody wants to pay 8.5%, for example. But guess what? Year 6, you could wake up, rates are coming down, and now it's 4. Do a refinance. So, but you still have that property. If you passed up on it because of the rate, for example, you're not gonna have another opportunity to buy that again. At least not at that price. So buy the property, date the rate, and hopefully refi down the road.
Spoken like true professionals. I love that insight, right? Because it truly is. Real estate properties are such an asset to have in your back pocket. So as you mentioned, the economy, it fluctuates, it goes up and down. You can only sit on the sidelines for so long. So, excuse me, I think with both of those sayings there, we hit the jackpot. That was a great answer. So thank you guys. I'm joined today by Mike Doherty and Ryan Deasy. We're going to take a quick break, but these guys are true professionals. They know what they're talking about. I appreciate the insight so far, guys. We'll be right back with the Money Making Minute, so stay tuned. REI Inc. is the premier monthly publication for real estate investors. Dive into a wealth of expert insights and knowledge from industry leaders and gain valuable regional market insights, ensuring you always have the best information right at your fingertips. Visit REIInc.com to elevate your real estate investment game today. Welcome back to this week's episode of Uncontested Investing. Again, I'm joined by Mike Doherty and Ryan Deasy from Skytree Investments. It's been an amazing episode so far, and it's now time for our first segment, the Money Making Minute. So we're going to put them both on the spot here. We're going to give some great advice for you, our listeners. Mike, Ryan, take it away whenever you're ready with the Money Making Minute. Again, this is going to be an investment strategy, skill, app, habit, part of your routine. Our audience knows the drill. Anything that you guys think helps contribute to your success that you want to share with our audience, the floor is yours.
Okay, so for me, I'm going to actually mention two different platforms that have really been part of our success. For me, and nothing against agents, nothing against the good old MLS, but like right now in this market, it's tough to buy properties on the MLS. If you find a duplex, triplex in the property in the town that you want to buy in, the likelihood that other investors are going to be bidding on it as well is very high. So what we do is try to find as many off-market sellers as we possibly can, meaning like we want to be the first ones in front of that seller to buy their property without any of the distractions from any other potential investors. So two things that have been super successful for us is one, Deal Machine. It is a platform. It is an app that produces postcards. It's actually not yellow letter postcards. It's actually kind of fancy postcards. And what it does is it takes Google images, just like you drive on Google Street View. It takes those same images of the property, puts it on a postcard. You can dictate what you'd like the postcard to say, like, hey, do you want to sell 123 Main Street? I'm interested. Here's my number. Here's my email. And we put out postcards and we get calls in from people that want to sell their property. And that's how we find off-market deals. That's the number one thing. Number two would be Launch Control. Huge fan of them. We are only 6 months deep with them, but really, really awesome stuff. They allow us legally, I will say that because there has been a ton of new regs in the last year or two or more regarding, mass texting, mass calling, and that kind of stuff. So they set you up so that you are doing everything by the book, and you are allowed to send X amount of text messages per day. It's something like 1,000 or more, but we have had really good success. As you know, as we all know, everybody's moved to their phones. So when they get that text message, they see it right on their phone, and they can respond if they'd like to or not to whether they want to sell their property to us. So both of those have been really crucial for us in finding off-market deals.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for me, I would say I always live by go 100 miles deep versus 100 miles wide. And the premise behind that is become an expert of your craft, of your field versus trying to dabble in a bunch of different things. So for us, that's real estate. I know there's different asset classes within real estate, industrial, self-storage, office, and we have dabbled in all of them. But I think my point here is I am an agent and I'm an investor. And that's my personality. That's who I am. I own it. And I'm trying to be very good at that versus trying to be, flipping and trying to do drop shipping on the side and trying to do all these little other, side hustles that a lot of people get caught up in and from watching Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all these things. So I think just hone in on one thing that you like, you're passionate about, and hopefully you're good at, and become a perfectionist at it almost. I'd say that having that mentality has allowed me to scale my business versus getting caught up in a lot of the other side hustles that people do. Some apps that I really like using every day for me as a full-time entrepreneur investor, I use MileIQ. It's a super simple app. It's $60 a year. It's always running. So whenever I'm driving to either a property we own or a showing or a listing, it's always tracking. And I just swipe right for business or left for personal. At the end of the year, it spits out my mileage and I give it to my accountant. The best app I could ever recommend. For organization, I use Dropbox. I'm not a huge Google guy. While I use the Google for searching, I don't use Google Drive. I don't use a lot of the other apps Google comes with, but Dropbox for me has been a game changer. If we're ever out, at one of our properties and Ryan's like, hey, what have we done this, so far year to date? I can quickly pull up Dropbox, pull up our bookkeeping report, and it's just information at your fingertips. I absolutely love it. So I'd say be a master of your craft. You get really good at what you love, and Dropbox and MyLikeU.
Two different answers, two great answers. I love that. Mike, I think that might be the first app recommendation, so I thank you for that. That's a great one. I hope everybody took notes on that. MyLikeU, that can definitely be a game changer for people in the real estate investment space. So very cool stuff. Thank you guys for that insight. I want to transition to Ryan, maybe specifically on this one. One of the things that stood out to me as we talked prior to the interview was the marketing aspect that you oversee, the optimization of the company. So what are some things that you take advantage within those two realms that really think gives you guys a leg up at Skytree?
Yeah, so I always want to come off as, this is how I've done it, and if we've had success in it, I'm just a guy. We're just local investors. I'm just a person seeking an extra property. I never have come off, or we have never come off like we're Blackstone coming into your backyard and we're picking up 1,000 properties in this neighborhood. People, in my experience, they like to deal with the local guy. They don't, even if we were in Massachusetts, which is just the next state over, it's like, if you don't have one of those phone numbers, like with the specific state zip code, they're kind of like, look at this out-of-state guy. So like we always want to be like that, just that local group. I think that's really, really been huge for us, is just because they don't want to spend the time to educate you. Meaning when we talk to somebody and we're making offers, we know the area. We can make an offer on the fly. We know what a property in Fairfield's going to go for. We know what a property in Hartford's going to go for. Like if we're investing in, Columbus, Ohio, I have absolutely no idea, right? So like just having that local feel has gone a long way. Like I was mentioning in the previous segment there, I cannot even begin to tell you the amount of compliments that we have gotten on our postcards from sellers. And I know for a fact, because I've seen it, some of these sellers have stacks of postcards from other people, and they are calling us because one, it has a picture of their house, which they usually think is cool and impressive, and that we took it even though Google did. So they're impressed by the postcard. They're impressed by the message. Again, that local feeling message. And just being consistent, like I hate to say it, we have gotten deals, we've closed deals, we've made money on deals on like postcard number 11. I'm being honest, we really have. So it takes more than one postcard. Like you have to keep it up. It's not a cheap thing. It's probably 60 cents a postcard, at least. And you kind of do need to scale, which is why we do the text messaging. It is significantly cheaper. And these days with people on their phones, everyone's getting them. So I think that just having like that really local feel, it has been huge for us. Also, who you target, I think is important. One of like the main things that we have targeted when we pull lists, right? Because you need a list to work off of when you send the postcards, when you send the text messages, right? You can't just like be typing in everyone's phone. Like that's crazy. Like you need to have an Excel sheet of phone numbers, of addresses, of owners. You can get that from a multitude of places. Deal Machine actually allows you to not only send postcards, but download lists. So you can do that all in one shot. But targeting, you don't want to do too much of a shotgun blast, right? Meaning you do want to be somewhat honed in, but in my belief, you don't want to be too honed in. Meaning there's only a couple things that we'd like to hone in on. One, I really like out-of-state owners, right? Versus an in-state owner, an out-of-state owner will have more of a need to sell if they want to sell it all. If you have a property in Connecticut, which is, where we invest, and you're an owner and you live in California, the chances that you want to sell is greater because you have less control. You probably have more headaches. You don't have the eyes on the property. You're probably struggling to manage it a little bit more than an in-state owner would. And two, we try to target people with high equity. If you just bought a property, you bought it with an FHA loan, there's other strategies that you can employ to buy a property from someone like that. But the chances are slimmer that they want to sell or that they can sell at our prices because we need to get at a discount. So buying or targeting someone with high equity coupled with how long they've owned it, which is kind of like the third piece, has gone a long way for us. Meaning, I always try to target someone who's owned it for at least 10 years, 15 years or more, because guess what? They probably have that higher equity. So those three things, out of state, high equity, and what was the third one?
Persistence.
The ownership length.
Yep.
Those three things have really been huge for us in terms of who we're marketing to.
Awesome. No, I appreciate that answer, because not only is it good insight, but it's actionable strategies that people can implement that maybe aren't thinking about that or haven't turned over that stone quite yet. There's a lot of different ways to go about it and find those new leads and take advantage of them. Mike, the next question is for you. You guys can maybe both answer this, but I definitely wanted to ask you about the common ground that we share when it comes to hosting a podcast. I'm just wondering what advantage you think that gives you, why you guys wanted to start that, what it does in terms of your credibility, and maybe, if you want to, do a little plug here about, the episodes, what you guys' plan of attack is each time you sit down and record one of those.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the opportunity here. So we host a podcast called Sky's the Limit Podcast. I deep dive into real estate investing with Mike and Ryan. It's certainly built a lot of credibility with a lot of our listeners. It's on Spotify, Apple, all the major platforms. And it has allowed me to get more brokerage business, I'd say. It hasn't, I haven't had sellers come out and say, hey, I heard your podcast and, can you buy my property? That hasn't happened yet. Maybe one day it will, but with my clients, I'll never forget, maybe like 5 episodes in, and we've been doing it about a year now. 5 episodes in, I'm sitting at a restaurant back in my hometown in Waterford, Connecticut. And she's like, hey, the waitress goes, hey, you look familiar. I'm like, thank you. I don't think I know you. What's your name? And she's like, oh no, you host that, you're on the podcast. I'm like, oh my God, you listen to that? That's crazy. So it's kind of like plugs like that allow you to keep it going. And for us, it's about it's about interviewing people, sharing their story, and also giving advice. Nate, I'm sure you're busy. I know Ryan's busy. I'm busy. And it's a platform that allows you to speak to a lot of people at once versus, hey, do you have time for a 5-10 minute call? And you can't talk to everyone throughout the day. So it's really allowed us to share our journeys, share our message, and also grow our business. But I think credibility is the number one thing, to your point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The credibility factor has been huge. And just like what we were saying at the start of the podcast, when we were talking about how our experiences over the last decade or so in this space, when we're talking to an individual client, is huge, right? Like, we can say like, hey, we've been doing this for so long, and like we've seen everything, this is what we think you should do or not do. Like, we are doing that with the podcast at scale, simply put, right? So that's really awesome. Because at the end of the day, and I know you would agree, like, we want to add value to somebody's life. Like, are we going to change every single person's life that listens to this? Probably not. But can we change 1, 2, half a dozen people? I would hope so. I really do. That's kind of why we do it. We can share our experiences at scale and hopefully help, our fellow investors.
Couldn't agree more. It's a great way to reach your audience. It's become insanely popular over the last, 5 years or so, just the podcasting community in general. The credibility is key. And then the persistence, right? Like just with the postcards, you show up, you have an episode every week, people can begin to rely on it. Maybe not every episode hits home, but, if you have 2 out of 5, 3 out of 5, or, you're talking about on a per listener base, 5, 10, 15 people can take something, it just starts to grow incrementally. So it's definitely not for the faint of heart. There's a lot of work that goes into it, but it can be very successful and very helpful if you go about it the right way, have the right attitude, have the right guests on, such as yourself. So I do of the episode. Sponsors are going to jump in. We'll be back with Ryan Deasy and Mike Doherty of Skytree Investments with Deal Maker. Stick around. At RCN Capital, we know that time is money. With our competitive rates and quick turnaround time, you can receive funding in as little as 10 days. We offer flexible payment plans to relieve the pressure of the repayment process. Our team is experienced in making sure that you choose a loan that will suit you best. So get on the phone with a loan officer today by emailing info@rcncapital.com or clicking the link in our bio. And we're back with Ryan, Deasy, and Mike Doherty from Skytree Investments. The next segment up is going to be the deal breaker, deal maker. And our loyal listeners will know that this is a bit of a switch from how we usually do it, but we want some impactful stories that can help our listeners. So Ryan and Mike, you guys can take turns talking about a pivotal moment in your career, something that sparked success, got you to where you are today. Go for it. Thank you.
Mike did touch on it a little bit. I think our first deal that we did, that 4-unit that he referenced at the start of the show, really kind of kicked things off for us. It was found via the 4-unit was found actually with a wholesaler who called me up that same day we agreed and signed the contract that she had just gotten someone to offer $50,000 more, and was a little like, okay, guys, like, if you don't pull this off, actually, it's fine because I'm going to sell it to this other person. But so as you can see, it was a good deal, and we made, I never want to be braggadocious in any way, but I think we made, in probably only a couple of weeks, I think we made $60,000 or something like that. Whatever. It launched us into that 5-unit. That 5-unit was actually, I do believe it was the first deal we got via our marketing efforts. And to be completely honest with you, when we first started our marketing efforts, I was doing everything by hand. There was no deal, or maybe there was a deal machine. I wasn't doing deal machine. I was doing handwritten letters. My response rate on those, it might have been 100%. It's just not scalable, right? But every single one I sent out, I do believe I got response on because it's handwritten. It's like, wow, this is like an actual person. Like, there's no hiding it. It's not a postcard. Postcards are great, but handwritten letters, which it really was, it was an amazing response. But anyways, we got a reply, from that 5-unit seller. And, he wanted to sell his property, for $300,000, 10% down. I think it was a 5% rate. He was going to hold for a number of years. That catapulted us, right? Because we sold the 4-unit, moved the profits into the 5. We bought it at a discount. We bought it with great terms. We bought it with seller finance. So I'm a lender. I do tons of, loans for people, but seller finance, in my opinion, is a holy grail, right? You could skip all of that, right? You can skip all of the applications, all the documents, and just jump right into the deal. So that really springboarded us because we had some built-in equity. We got a great property that was well kept. The guy was, in his 70s. He just tinkered around the property. He was one of those guys that he's an old school guy. He just kept it up so well. It really was awesome. We ended up doing 1, maybe 2 cash out refis on it. The rents were strong. There was never any big repairs. So all in all, that was really a turning point for us.
Yeah. I think the property that I guess opened my eyes to real estate the most was my 3rd purchase ever. It was before Ryan and I partnered. No offense, Ryan. Is when I really learned the principle of the, Bigger Pockets talks about it as the BRRRR strategy. It's a cash out refinance. And the principle behind it is you're buying a distressed property, you're adding value through management or construction or both, and you're increasing the value, sweat equity, whatever you want to call it, and you're doing a cash out refinance and you're pulling out your original down payment. For me, it was my 3rd property. It was a 2-family in Middletown, Connecticut. I bought it for $100,000 foreclosure from the bank. I invested $50,000 into it. I got a hard money loan, which is, a low, 10 to 20% down payment plus construction costs. So I'm all in for $150,000, and I'll never forget it. I went to a new bank. I said, hey, I want to do a cash out refinance. I have this beautifully rented out, fully renovated 2-family. Let me know what it's worth. They said, well, they sent out an appraiser. They said it's worth $275. but of course they're not going to give you a loan of 275. So they'll give you, 75% loan to value. So my new loan was $200,000. I cashed out. So I was into that deal for nothing. And now I have a fully cash flowing 2-family property in a great town with quote unquote none of my own money that everyone always talks about. Well, it actually was very little of my own money. That deal for me was like, wow, if I could do that on this, I could do that on a larger building too. And that's rinse and repeat. You could do it on a 2-unit, you could do it on a single family, you could do it on a 150 unit apartment complex. For me, that was the pivotal moment.
I love that. No, again, it speaks to the perseverance. I think I appreciate you guys because you're the guinea pigs for the new deal breaker, deal maker. It was a little bit of a different segment in the past, but I think that's a much more powerful story to hear of actually experience. And, it doesn't always happen on the first deal, but if you get that light bulb moment, that spark, it just gets better from there. You get that energy, you get that passion. So let's talk about Skytree as a company. Do you guys have any overarching goals for the next 1 to 5 years? Is there things that you're working on? Is it kind of just plodding forward, business as usual, stick to what's been working for you? Are there any changes that you want to talk to our audience about that you have coming, changes or goals, I should say?
It's Ryan. I'll jump in real quick, only because it's at the front of my mind. I just did a social media post on my Instagram, and it was a meet the team, Skytree team, right? And when Ryan and I started Skytree, I don't even know how many years ago at this point, maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago, Ryan. We had my friend who was a high school friend. She was just really good at art. I was like, hey, can you maybe draw us something that, we came up with the name, and she drew us our logo, and we use it to this day. So it wasn't fancy. It was just 2 guys. We're like, we need some sort of marketing, figure, we'll say, for lack of better words. But, I didn't go to business school. I don't think you went to business school, Ryan. We kind of just figured out what worked and what didn't. But where I'm going with it is we started off as 2 guys, we'll call it in a garage. And we now have 11 to 12 people that work with us to grow Skytree. On the brokerage end, I have, 3 amazing agents with me. And on the lending end, Ryan's got a couple lenders. We got a bookkeeper. We have social media. We have a virtual assistant, Judith, who's been with us forever. We're up from 2 to 11 or 12 people now, and it's crazy. I didn't realize it until I really just did that post a couple of days ago. I was like, wow, we're growing. It's kind of cool to think about. So, anyways, I don't know. That was cool.
That's great.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good answer. I would echo that for a second. We've used the word scale a whole bunch of times during this show, and I think that having those team members allows you to do that. Doing stuff yourself is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. For us, if we want to continue to, Mike, help his clients buy and sell properties, I want to help clients, finance their investments. I need help. We're pretty inundated with people, which is great, but we want to provide that same level of service to every single person. And it gets real tough being one person. And I personally do not like turning people away. And I really won't. So I continue to take on people, and it's like, okay, I need some help. So yes, echoing that for sure. I would also add in, over the last couple of years, like we have said, we have dabbled in a lot. We've done office. We have office. Where we're sitting right now, we own this office building. We've done Airbnb. We have a triple net building. We have a huge, no apartments, no living space, all retail, all office building. We have a little bit, we've got duplexes, triplexes. We have a mixed, so we've done a lot. My point is over the last couple of years, we've sort of honed in on what we really value, what really works for us. And I got to be honest, bigger is not always better. I'm just gonna come out and say it. Let me tell you, if you own a multi-million-dollar property, 2, 3, 10 million, you better have pockets. You better have deep pockets, because when that roof goes, you better just keep adding zeros onto whatever you are used to paying on a duplex, for example. It's just on a different level, and there's nothing wrong with it. If you can swing it, absolutely knock yourself out. I'm not saying that we're not going to continue to scale up in what we're buying, but the point is like, don't get sucked into buying like massive properties because you think you're going to make more. That's not necessarily the case. You could buy 3 cash flowing duplexes and skip on the big 9-unit building where, it's got one central boiler, right? That heats the whole building that the landlord's on the hook for. Meanwhile, the 3 triplexes that you could have bought are all separately metered. All of the utilities are on the tenants. And it's like, oh, wow, I see this huge building over here. It looks so sexy, right? Versus these 3 little, so don't get sucked into that. And we've done it. We got sucked in, right? And we've made mistakes. And I think looking back, it's like, okay, we now know what we want and what works for us. So going forward, we're going to be purchasing things that we like and that make sense.
Great piece of advice. The last question I have for you guys, I kind of like rounding it out with another personal question similar to how you started in the industry. Is there a passion project? Is there something that you guys do outside of real estate that you feel recharges you, refreshes your batteries, makes you better in this industry? It can be grueling. It can be overwhelming. It can be, 24/7, 365 if you let it. Is there anything you do in your spare time that you think makes you better at your jobs?
Really good question. I think passion project as it relates to real estate is we are building a course to be able to give out to people, just kind of in addition to the podcast, give back.
Cool.
And help educate a lot of people, just personal experiences. We've kind of probably gone through a deal or two and can help navigate you through that deal that you're currently, trying to buy. Outside of real estate, I love to golf, trying to consistently get better. Golf is a mental game, as a lot of people probably have said that, and it's very easy to become a mental midget, especially on the golf course. So I think that allows me to really like test myself, and it's a very, very humbling sport. And real estate is no different. It's a very humbling industry to be in. Just when you think you know it all, like Ryan was saying, we thought going bigger was better. Not the case, at least for our this example. It's okay to not have the sexy 20-unit apartment building. It's okay to have a little condo that you never get a call from the tenant from, and it just keeps appreciating, right? But for me, golf, it's my plug. I love it. It allows me to take some of our clients out and entertain them, which is amazing. Kind of double dip a little bit. But yeah, I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, but
definitely. I'm a sick, addicted to golf addict. Right. So
very good.
It's right up my alley. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like you said, man, like you can get sucked into this business. I could work 24 hours a day, and if I wasn't married with a kid, I probably would, to be honest with you. So I guess my answer would be, yeah, hanging out with them is very grounding. Just before we got into the show, Wednesday mornings, my daughter has a music class. It's outside, it's in the park. We literally, if anybody drove by, it's gotta be hilarious because we're all like dancing around, we're beating on drums, we're doing like these little shakers. Like I can't even begin, like, I know that sounds funny, but like, I can't begin to tell you like how grounding it is. And I literally thought about it. It's like, it is grounding because when I get into the office and we're doing deals and we're being, technical, we're going over numbers, we're talking with sellers that might be mad at us for not closing on time. It's just like all of this craziness, like to go and sit on the grass in the park and be on a little, like, it's just like, it kind of like frees your mind from all the craziness. And then you get back into it, which you have to get back into because it's your job. It's what you do. It's fine. But like to have those little minutes, those half hour pieces, whether it's the gym, whether it's golf, whether it's what I just said with the music class, like you have to have those mental breaks that keep you grounded and that allow you to continue what you're doing.
I appreciate your guys' time so much. A true dynamic duo here, Ryan Deasy and Mike Doherty. Thank you so much for your time today. The Uncontested Investing audience learned absolutely so much. Before we say our goodbyes here, if you guys just want to do a social media plug, how can people find you? How can they find Skytree, learn more about you, get some advice? You guys are full of it. You're kind of newer to the game as some of the experienced professionals that I have with decades of experience, but you guys are cruising in this industry. You're doing great things. So how can people find you and learn more about yourselves, your journey with Skytree?
Yeah, SkytreeInvestments.com. Our podcast is Sky's the Limit, available on Apple, Spotify, and in our website. My Instagram is just Mike Doherty Realtor. I think that's it for me.
Sky's the Limit podcast. Check us out. We're on all the normal platforms. For me, Ryan Deasy on Facebook. I'm pretty active on Facebook. And for Instagram, Ryan Deasy REI.
Yeah. Thank you again, Nate, and everyone from your team to have us on. We really appreciate it.
Guys, I appreciate it just as much as you do. Thank you so much for stopping by, sharing your insight. Again, for our uncontested investing audience, hope you guys really enjoyed this one. Mike and Ryan, you guys crushed it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For our audience, we'll see you all in the next one.
Thank you for listening to Uncontested Investing. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow REI Inc. magazine on LinkedIn and Facebook and RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time.